friends, and welcome to another episode of Square of Self-Love. I am your self-love doctor, Kiatana Square, and I have my first guest here with me,
Ricky Joghee.
Yay! Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Square of Self-Love. I am Kiatana Square, your self-love doctor. Your girl has officially matched. I matched Howard University for psychiatry and I'm so excited. I am almost legitimate. And yeah, literally, oh my goodness, I am in my best days of my medical school journey. For those who don't know, Match Day is essentially when fourth year medical students across the nation find out where they will continue their career as a physician and practice their first job as a physician as a resident. And so that's like the first legitimate physician step. It's essentially an internship where you get paid and you learn, but you're learning from the context of a practicing physician. So, you're a doctor, you introduce yourself as Dr. So-and-so. And that's me. That's who I'll be. So after the month of May, when I get my hooding, because I'm all official, technically I could probably, just start referring to myself as Dr. Square, but I don't know. I want the ink to be dry. I want my hat to be sat on my head. And I want to officially be like done to the done, so that I can claim it loud, claim it real hard, and nobody's going to check me. So that's my story. Let's get into today's episode. I'm so excited. I have my first guest. And so I will have that here soon. But of course, we got to start with our affirmations. So if you are new to the podcast, first, please follow me on Instagram at square.of.self.love. As well as on my Instagram, there is a link in my bio where you can find my link tree, and all of my other platforms are there. So you can find episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and then on YouTube, as well as special announcement. I will be hosting kind of like a Discord, just like community party almost, on Saturday, April 13th. And I am so excited because I want this to be the start of something I do every other week. And if you want more information on that, you can check out my newsletter, which in the link in my bio. There's a QR code. Just, screenshot it, scan it. And I'm really excited because I really want to keep up the newsletter on a monthly basis. And then I want to have these Square of Self-Love sessions every other Saturday. And I think it'll be good. I am thinking it'll be a great way to kind of help people feel like they're not alone, on their self-love journey. And so, yeah, anyway, enough of my rambling. Let's hop into these affirmations. For the month of April, I wanted to focus on April showers bring May's flowers. So I was thinking on focusing on personal journeys and kind of just embracing your individual journey, combating areas where, you might have doubt, really highlighting renewal, development, and self-care. So I really want to just kind of think about nurturing, and that's kind of my theme. This episode is going to focus on the role of self-care in non-traditional paths to success. And so that's the perfect way for me, I think, to kind of kick off the theme of April. For those who are new to the podcast, when I do affirmations, I am going to make them 3 minutes, and it's essentially just me repeating, a phrase. If you'd like to follow along, you can, repeat the phrase, or you can pause it, do your own affirmations if that's something that you do. But this is just a way to kind of stimulate it and get you into the zone of self love and speaking kindness and growth into yourself. So the affirmations that I do, if you are new to the podcast, are usually associated with each week's episode. And so that's kind of the focus this week. And yeah, I think I'm done rambling. Okay, I'm going to start these off. Okay. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. I really hope I can get that. Let's go from the top. I am worthy of success no matter the path I choose. I am worthy of success no matter the path I choose. I am worthy of success no matter the path I choose. I am worthy of success no matter the path I choose. My unique journey is a reflection of my strength and dedication. My unique journey is a reflection of my strength and dedication. My unique journey is a reflection of my strength and dedication. Believing in myself is a first step towards achieving my dreams. Believing in myself is the first step towards achieving my dreams. Believing in myself is the first step towards achieving my dreams. Believing in myself is the first step towards achieving my dreams. Every step I take is a testament to my resilience and self-love. Every step I take is a testament to my resilience and self-love. Every step I take is a testament to my resilience and self-love. Every step I take is a testament to my resilience and self-love. All right, beautiful. That sounded good. Okay, let's get into the episode. And my good friend Ricky offered to be a guest on my podcast. For some reason, he believes in me. And I am so grateful. We talked about having this episode for a while, and I wasn't really sure what topic to cover. I kind of just chose something for you. Is that okay?
That's totally fine.
Love that energy. Love that flexibility.
I'm a man of adjustments.
Great. That is a little bit in this episode. And so if you are a first-time listener, please follow me on Instagram at square.of.self.love. And on my Instagram, you can find a link in my bio that takes you to all of my other platforms, listening platforms. This episode will be available on Spotify as well as Apple Podcast and YouTube. So let's hop into it. Ricky, do you want to share just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, just a little bit about me. Born and raised in Chicago, first generation American. My parents are from an island called Mauritius. It's about 22 hours away from here, southeast of Africa. So grew up speaking French. It's my first language.
Ooh.
So fluent in French and Creole, English as well.
Nice.
So a little bit about me, currently in the military. I'm a sergeant in the Army, National Guard. and a licensed financial professional. I have my own brokerage here called World System Builder, where we do financial literacy and education. So, yeah, and also a big time basketball guy. So,
there you go.
Yeah, side note, not too much of a big deal, but we have an Adidas grassroots program here in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
Called One of Us. So we're on
Plug that.
Yeah, we're on the Adidas circuit. So it's our first year. So we're excited.
That's huge.
Help change some kids' lives. We also do combines for unsigned seniors. We just had ours this past Saturday. We got 5 kids that got a scholarship on the spot.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we're doing a little bit of everything.
Nice. Yeah, that's a lot of the reason
moving the needle forward.
Yeah, that's a lot of the reason I was interested in having you as a guest, because I feel like you've always had a hand in something, but I've never been able to make the link.
Yeah. No, the hands are all in. It's in the same pot.
Sure.
There's a lot of different ingredients in
it's
the pot.
Intentional.
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
tell. Yeah. So this episode, I really wanted to talk about kind of embracing that non-traditional path and, trusting yourself and having that self-love component, and how that self-love component really makes it a lot easier to follow your, trajectory. And so I don't know, were you able to listen to the podcast at all to know kind of the skeleton? Oh, you listened?
Yeah.
Oh, God bless. Thanks.
No, you're welcome.
I swear I'd just be thinking I'm talking to myself.
No.
Only person listening is my mom.
No.
But
yeah. I mean, self-love, I guess, in this journey that I've been on currently, it's definitely there's not any self-hate, but it's just, more so than love, I think it's just belief that you can actually do whatever you want to do. Because like whenever you're like in a private, intimate setting by yourself, you can, believe that you can conquer the world, and then you kind of leave that little bubble, and it's like there's strangers around you, people you may know, their projections on you, and it can get a little tough sometimes, especially as the younger you are and as you're getting older. But that's why it's very important as I've gotten older too, man. You can't have any negative energy around you. You can't. Sometimes you're better off just not being around certain people. Because it's just infectious both ways. So that's where I would say is not really not having no self-love, but more so having the belief to always believe in what you can do, what you put your mind to.
Absolutely. That's huge. And we will definitely get into your support system and crafting that support system with intentionality.
Absolutely.
So intentionality is like my jam. I feel like success doesn't happen on accident,
No, you gotta be intentional.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll probably just be hyping each other up towards the end. But
I'm all for that.
All right. So you already know the layout. For the new listeners on board, usually the way I structure my episodes is we, of course, start with our affirmations, which we have already done. And then we go into kind of our main topics for each episode. We give kind of like just a general outline on like what each topic is. And then there's always associated reflective questions for each topic. I think this is really where I want to encourage, reflection from my podcast. I think the biggest thing is, a lot of people passively listen, but they somewhat associate different things to themselves. But I think this gives them a little more direction when it comes to just thinking about themselves. And it kind of just gives a little therapy where some people might never get therapy.
That's true. I let it out. Stealthy.
Let's start with our main topic. So embracing your unique journey and learning from it. So can you talk about any challenges you faced during your journey or, gratifying moments or anything like that?
Yeah, I think my whole journey is unique because it's what I want hasn't really been done. Like there's just an imagination just from different things that you curate from how you grow up and things that you kind of want and love to do and see a vision. And a lot of times that vision and that blueprint isn't there. So it's hard to find something to mimic because most people, it's not any knock on people's careers or what they want to do, but a lot of times people have a blueprint laid out for them, whether it's from uncles, aunts, sisters, or just people in the community that have, their neighbors that do whatever it is they do.
Right.
So it's a very easy follow, for a how-to manual. But, for my case, it's totally different. I come from a first-generation American family. So, it's a whole different mindset of, the immigrant thinking of just going to school, do this, and you're like not really knowing why you're going to school. But then you also grow up in the States and you grow up in an era where, sports is big, especially me growing up in Chicago, the Bulls, and my parents used to always watch. We used to always watch a VH1 show, like The Fabulous Life of whatever, and they go and
Mm-hmm.
talk about celebrities and all that stuff. So it's hard to like pinpoint things that you want to do. Obviously, basketball being your first love, and it's just hard to figure out where you really fit and all that.
Right.
So that's kind of been where I'm at, to be able to just take little bits of what I see, and then it takes a little longer than some, but life is a marathon. So even if you figure out a little later, but if you keep going and it's something you see a vision in, it'll last a lot longer. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the whole goal, is to last, not to burn out fast.
Yeah. So what are the, times where you find kind of that gratification and kind of you feel like, okay, I am doing something right?
Yeah, I think it's just in the small victories, and it's very hard for someone like myself, people who are very uh, very goal oriented and focused on the bigger picture. Like there's times, there's this post I always go back to. It says, like, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you are where you wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, it's so hard because it's like kind of chasing that rabbit. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, but you are exactly where you wanted to be, So, um, I think just kind of having good people around you that kind of show you your props, but also too maybe sometimes just taking a step back and just like being still and just looking at, all right, what have I done lately? It's like, you got to have some self gratitude, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd rather it be that way than the opposite way, and just celebrating everything like it. Because some people over celebrate.
Oh yeah.
Some people absolutely over
Oh
celebrate.
yeah. And I think our society will allow you to over
Yeah.
celebrate. So I guess, do you have any examples of, challenges that you faced and how those challenges have sculpted you for the better now?
Yeah, I think a lot of challenges that I faced is, one, kind of breaking into a certain industry or a realm where I don't have any backing from myself, from family members, from much people who can vouch for you. So it's more so just kind of being true to who you are, paying your dues and just kind of sticking to the script. And that's been a big thing of mine that's kind of been helping me progress, but also making the right relationships. I think if you are true to what you do and you make the right relationships, whoever you want to believe in, God, the universe, those things will compound, and you'll just end up falling upon or stumbling upon, whatever it is. And that, it may not be in plain sight, but you may be somewhere for a year, you develop a good relationship with the people who are there, and they see how hard you work, and that person may know somebody
Mm-hmm.
that you're looking to some point get in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about, that's kind of been the trajectory of kind of how I've been able to do that, because my dad told me when I was younger, so the most important thing in life is networking.
Wow.
So yeah,
That is,
I
and
learned.
it's huge important, but I don't think many people realize it until,
Yeah, yeah. He told me. I mean, that's one thing that stuck with me when I was like, I think, eighth grader or like seventh grader. I've been freshman in high school, but it was in
Mm-hmm.
that period. He told me that's the most important thing, and it's true.
Yeah.
Because when I went to Wichita State, first day of class, sports management, the teacher told us, "Hey, the most important thing you'll ever learn, being with me and in school and getting your degree, will be, it's not about who you know, it's also about who knows you."
Oh,
And once I heard that, I kind of ran with that, and
yeah.
that's really it.
Yeah.
So
That's huge.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that is a word. I like that. And I definitely identify with that, having, a crazy path to medicine and,
Yeah.
where I'm at now. I feel like everything kind of, I mean, it felt like trash in the moment, a lot of
Mhm.
those setbacks, but everything definitely led to the right spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
so I definitely identify with that. Let's get into our reflective questions for
All
this
right.
topic. What have I learned about myself through this journey?
Yeah, one thing I've learned is, I'm gonna hold the line. Like, I'll fail before I quit,
Mm-hmm.
and you know I've never quit. Um, and even failing, man, it's like, I think people get the whole idea wrong. It's like, failing doesn't mean you didn't succeed. It just means that it didn't play out in this scenario. But like I said, life and the whole journey, it's a long race. So
Mm-hmm.
if you like get stuck up on the little mishaps that happen now and you throw in the towel, then this may not be for you.
Right.
But that's one thing I've learned for sure, is just not quitting,
Mm-hmm.
because there's just that pain of regret that I can't just sit with. And some people, power to them, they can kind of take that regret and they can just shove it down deep and forget about it.
Sure.
But I believe it's dangerous because that will come and bite you down the line. And there's probably nothing worse than that, than kind of just to say, hey, it didn't work out. How do we pivot?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why you can never quit. So I think that's for sure one thing for me, is not ever quitting.
I do. I'm tempted to emphasize an aspect of what you're saying is
Mm-hmm.
like never quit what is a part of your vision,
Yeah,
right? Like
absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people fall into certain spaces
Mm-hmm.
just by happenstance that they
Mm-hmm.
never really intended to be,
Yeah.
and they feel like they cannot quit that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's for sure. I think wherever we fall into, for whatever the case may be, I think it's always good. But if you keep the main thing,
Right.
you should be able to figure out, all right, how do I parlay this, or how do I, use this to leverage this, or like,
Exactly.
whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be the win,
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's all about figuring out what is it that you want, and then
Mm-hmm.
having a plan and a course of action, and making some sacrifice too. That's one thing too. People don't understand. You have to make sacrifices. It's not going to be fine and dandy. Like
Mm-hmm.
if there's something that you want to do, and your 9 to 5 that's paying you 65K a year is prohibiting that, then maybe find a part-time job and babysit on the side. I don't, to free up time, if time is
Sure.
what you need. So it's like there's also that taking effect too. A lot of people don't want to give up comfort. They don't want to
Right.
sacrifice that, but nothing great comes from being comfortable.
Right.
So,
I have to really echo that because as I graduate medical
mm-hmm.
school, I've heard time and time again,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I wanted to be a doctor, but I could never go to school that long.
Yeah.
And me either, girl, but I did it. Like,
yeah. I mean, no one can ever do anything that's required.
yeah.
But I mean, that should be irrelevant to what the main goal is.
Right.
Like, if the main goal is the main goal, then whatever comes in between, if you're built like that, it shouldn't really matter. But people, that's the thing too. And I talked a lot of this to my athletes, right? They talk about going D1, being a pro, and it's like, do you want to be that, or do you like the idea of that? Those are two different things.
Come on.
People like the idea of being a doctor, like the idea of being pro. They like the idea of having a business, and like the idea of retiring their significant other.
Sure.
Like the idea of making all this money. It's like, yeah, but that's not what it is.
Right.
It's not pretty, but that's why people who stick with it, because it takes time. You see them in their 40s and late 30s and 50s, and they're prospering.
Yeah.
Because they chose to, deal with it. Because sacrifice is not it's not an if.
Yeah.
I have to sacrifice. It's you will. It's just a matter of when you want to do it.
Absolute success cannot come without sacrifice.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. That's 1,000%.
But a lot of people want comfortable sacrifices that feel safe.
Yeah. And that's not real sacrifice.
No, it should be scary, but at the same time, it should be something that you are so certain in yourself. That's where it, ties back into, I say self-love, but absolutely like self-belief and trusting yourself. Because I see self-love as more as like a, relationship with myself, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm going to be in a relationship with someone, I have to trust them, literally they say till death do you part, sickness and health. So when it comes to self-love, I think of it as, I have to, even when I am petrified and I don't know what comes after this, I know that this is my vision and this is where I belong and this is how I'm going to,
absolutely
get through it. So yeah, man, this is going to be a long episode. Well, yeah, what have I learned about myself in this journey? And I definitely feel like, doing my own reflective question, I definitely learned that I am an opportunist and I am able to, flip failures and successes for my benefit. And that does, as you were saying, like give to the gratification that I am on the right path. I am doing something where, I am passionate. If you can use your failures for your win, that's good. You can, in any kind of way you can to get to where you want to be. That's the end goal,
you gotta be resourceful.
That's way more classy.
You have to be resourceful. Absolutely. Yeah. I credit my resourcefulness to definitely, my dad, one, just kind of seeing him work, but also too, this doesn't sound crazy, but whatever, it works for me. He loves watching action movies, particularly ones that have to do with like like secret agents or like those kind of, but like, and when you watch those movies, those guys are always making something out of nothing.
They sure are.
They'll like do a contraption out of like a shoelace.
They sure
So
will.
like, and that's all like we ever watched. Like when I was with him, and we watched movies like all the Born Identity movies, like those Denzel movies.
Mm-hmm.
You name it, right? All the Takens and all that stuff. It's just been a thing to watch all those movies. So it's kind of been how I've grown up. Is just kind of just seeing people being resourceful.
Sure.
Just that idea of being resourceful.
Yeah.
And that's extremely important because, it's never going to be convenient. You're going to have to make sacrifices and you're not going to have much to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Your hand's not going to get dealt with the best card. So how do you make it work with what you have?
Absolutely.
You got to figure it out.
Absolutely.
You got to figure it out.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of speed through the self-reflective questions, and if you want, you can answer one, and then I'll answer the other.
Okay.
Or you can answer both because you're the guest, but I'll probably not answer all of them.
Okay, no worries. No worries.
But I want you to feel like I was just interrogating you.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
So how have variations in my journey compared to others impacted my view of success?
I think, just out of respect for others too, I've been learning to be better with that. I think success is all subjective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people are in a place to deem what success is. But then the same way, you shouldn't put on others what success is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all, it could be somebody who has grown up poor their whole life and, has witnessed traumatic events with their family and not having a stable household. And to them is, your success is having a family, keeping that family nucleus great,
right,
and having stability. Right. Some people, it's some other things. So I think it all depends on. I think success is all in the eyes of the beholder.
Absolutely.
Right? Just like I say, beauty and love it's all about, who's viewing it, because it's their success at the end of the day, not mine, not yours to live. It's their own.
Mm-hmm.
But in that same breath, I don't think you should kind of put your success on other people as well, because then you're just being rude, I guess.
Sure. No, I think so. More context to the question. I think I was thinking in terms of like comparison.
Yeah.
So how have I know me personally. In medical school, everybody's journey looks different.
Yeah.
And I started older, than most of my
Yeah.
peers. So I think just having that, timeline as a woman, timeline is pushed so heavily on us. And so having that timeline in my head, am I behind? And then having to take another year and thinking, oh my goodness, now I'm further behind. And I think just wearing that comparison. But I don't know if, that happens outside of the medical world.
No, I think it does too. But, just and to that point, it's like, because, everyone feels the same way, but it's like behind who?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, and that's
Absolutely.
another thing too. Like, it's just something to think about, because, we're all guilty of it too. It's like, oh, well, by a certain age, it's like, yeah, but then for what? Because there's people who are on time and then they end up not being able to handle what they were given. Also, too, they end up quitting, or
True.
they end up just failing and they do something else.
True.
There's tons of times you hear people who say, oh, I failed out of medical school, or I couldn't pass the bar, and they just end up doing something else. And it's like, well, then what's the difference if the person takes a little longer, but he ends up making it?
Absolutely.
So I think that's why I think it's so important. And I think that's something, not too much on all parents, but a lot of parents, it's their fault too, because they kind of see what's around them and they want to, obviously they want their child to be the best child.
Sure.
So they can flaunt them a little bit, but
Sure.
that's like you're putting unexpected, unnecessary pressures of a timeline when, it doesn't matter as long as you're constantly laying your brick every single day.
Absolutely. That's real. That's really real. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
The next reflective question, in what ways have I grown or changed for the better because of my non-traditional path?
What ways have I grown? Yeah, I think humility has been a big way of growth. just because my non-traditional path has gotten me all over the spectrum, all over the place, different experiences. So, it's really given me a sense of humility because it's like I voluntarily threw myself in the wolves
Mm-hmm.
when most people kind of, end up getting thrown to the wolves just through life.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up just going there because that's where I had to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I did it on purpose or not doesn't matter. But it is what it is. You're just kind of out here with like I said before. There's no blueprint. There's no how-to manuals. You just got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all those experiences and also growing to and maturing more. I think the biggest thing is having accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think enough people have any accountability, especially as a man. I think just as a man, you have to own everything as your fault. I mean, honestly, and it's not what you want to hear, but in some degree it is because if you really look back at it, you can kind of not control, but you have a decision to make every day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were a little better with your decisions, it probably wouldn't have compounded into the result that happened.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So not like your fault, but like you play a role in everything you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think
finding your role.
Yeah, but also too at that, I will say, as a man too, it is also your fault for everything because you're a man. Like you can't.
I just want to make it clear.
Yeah.
A man is saying this, y'all.
Yeah, like you got to have some accountability. Like because you can't want the glory of being a man, being a leader, having women submit to you,
Right.
and having all the good stuff. But then like when the stuff happens bad, it's you.
Right.
It's like,
Okay.
No, you got
Yeah.
heavy is a head that wears a crown. That's why
Mm-hmm.
kings wear crowns.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want that, you got to be able to. And whether it's not your fault or not, that's besides the point.
Sure.
Because it's a mind frame set to where, all right, man, I probably could have done this better. And
Right.
And that's the thing, you get better. Most people nowadays, they have a problem with saying they're wrong or taking accountability because they feel like they're a victim or it's insecurity. When it's like, dude, just say you made a mistake, whether it was yours or not, just own
Right.
up to it. And then because that allows you to figure out, okay, how do I not make this mistake again? Or how
Right.
do I do it better? But people miss that part. It's about the blame game. Oh, I didn't do it. He did. Or like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're not finding a solution.
Yeah. And the only thing that you can control in the situation is you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's real. I do feel like that's important for men and women. Mm-hmm. However, I am a believer that
don't get me wrong. Women have accountability to take as well. I think women have, women definitely have.
Easy on the girls now.
Yeah, no, I love women. I think they're beautiful creatures.
Praise the Lord.
They have to give birth, which is one of the craziest things of all time. Yeah. They're nurturing by a heart. They're here to grow.
Now we're heavy on the women.
Yeah. No, they're here to grow and cultivate. But at the same time, they have, everyone has a certain accountability to take mm-hmm. based on their roles. And women too. I think women have to from what I've seen, do a better job. And it's not their fault. It's just because they're so loving and emotional. But that kind of kills them sometimes too because they're so quick to jump on, a man they think should be leading them,
the defense,
but doesn't,
mm-hmm.
and now ends up being,
baby boy,
Joghee. Yeah, I mean seriously, what I'm saying? It's just all bad because women have to do a better job of picking the man. I think women have to do a better job picking the man. Also, too, men also are very deceitful in telling the truth and telling them what they want to hear. But at the same time, too, that's where it goes hand in hand. It just is what it is.
We're gonna tangent. I've always.
I mean, they got to do a better job of picking.
I have always struggled with that.
Yeah.
The women have to do a better job with picking because you can't do a better job when there's an underlying men can be deceitful, right? Like you may think you are picking a better man and he doesn't have these qualities that the previous problematic men have had, mm-hmm. but you will never know the new problematics that can exist in someone. And you can't, agreed, mm-hmm. everyone could date better.
Yeah.
Everyone, and we just closed up our dating, phase, but visiting it. Yeah. I think everybody really could, especially in our society, could date better. But I also think that does come with sacrifice, right? Me personally, I don't think you should sleep with people within the time frame that you aren't committed to them.
Yeah.
I think people should commit to you body, and relationally when you are, boyfriend and girlfriend. Before then,
Yeah.
I don't think.
But see, and it goes back to this because it's we're all human nature, right?
Sure.
We've all been, guilty of this, and we've all, done what we've done. But it comes to the whole thing of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want that knight on shining armor, then you probably shouldn't be going out drinking. You probably shouldn't be trying to look hot. And by hot, I don't mean beautiful. It's two different things. As far as revealing, a little promiscuous, shoulder showing, like maybe you shouldn't be doing that. Maybe you should be doing things that will put you in an environment to attract that kind of guy.
I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm saying but that's just, that's the whole point of everything. Like,
I hear you.
Yeah.
I think people get very superficial when they talk about how to attract men.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that has been a lot of the issue is men and women. Like, we attract very superficially. Very few people are dating out here with substance and moral compasses and character traits that are attractive. I think, when you do, because you could dress however you want most of the times. If a man is looking for the type of woman you look like, he's going to go for it. Whether you're in a sweater, whether you're in a tube top, whether you're in, some shorts or a dress. Like, if you fit that physical attribute, they'll go for it. Now, very few men are seeking character behind those physical attributes. So it's like, yeah, some men are like, oh, okay, well, she was wearing, she just looks too revealing. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm revealing, one night out of the year, but someone only sees me once, they're going to attribute me to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You can't shape the narrative based on, how you wear. It's how you represent yourself on a consistent basis,
No, for sure. And that's the messed up part is that it is first impression everything. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying as a man, I see a girl and I'm out the club with my boys and I see a woman and she just looks revealing. That's just going to be my thought.
Interesting. Why?
That's the thing. You're only as good as the first impression. But I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it's right. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
But that's just the impression I get. If I'm, now I speak to her more and we figure it out.
Right.
For sure. But also I think there's a combination of your appearance and your character.
Okay.
Because a lot of those girls who do dress promiscuous, there's a character attribute to that's making the combination.
Like a trend.
That's making me like, okay, you're in this category. Like there's some girls who can still dress, respectfully and still be gorgeous. And I think, but also too, it's who are you around? Are you dressing promiscuous, and all your girls are out of control, taking shots, word slurring, or like what is it? And I think all that plays a combination of what judgment you will get.
Sure.
And I'm not saying the judgment is right or wrong, but it's just the reality. But at the same time too, it's not a perfect world. So
I will say, I do judge a man based off of his friend group.
Yeah, birds of the same
for
feather
sure.
flock together. And that's what I'm saying. The promiscuous girls, there's probably their friends. They're not the only one in that pack that's promiscuous. Like,
I hate the term promiscuous. I don't think promiscuous is a bad thing.
The revealing, I think because there's tons of ways to be beautiful without having to, cross the line of
like over sexualizing.
Yeah,
yourself.
absolutely. 1,000%. There's tons of ways to do it without that, and it just, it can go down a rabbit hole about where it starts and why it is. But my wife, when I was going through a phase, and when I met her, that was the only girl I met over a wide period of time where I was meeting a lot of women that I did not lust over. That was every other woman I lusted. First thing that came to mind was, okay, physical attraction. What can I do to get going in that direction? First time I saw her, I was like, wow, this is a really cute, seems like a genuine girl. Let me go talk to her.
But does that say more about you and your maturity?
It does, but it also had to do with how she was.
Okay.
She was with her friend. She had a black jacket on, had some jeans. Her friend was, I think, had a sweater and a dress. Like they were out, but it wasn't like the rest of these girls who wear fishnets and crop top.
She was dressed tastefully.
Yeah, she was like, okay, I can I'm not really focused on the sexual part. That's going to be like that's just what it is. But when you're not that, and I just see your face and we speak, and it's okay. Because also too, there's a in any kind of human endeavor, there's a chase involved.
Of course, I agree.
So if everything's out on full display, then it's just like okay, then that's the kind of party it is.
But is everything out? I feel like men simplify women into a sexual category way sooner than they would anything. Like part of it is if you want to see someone as sexual, you simply will. Mm-hmm. And if you have a sexual attraction to someone, but you don't seek out that character, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, but and I will say for and there's a lot of in my time I've had a lot of friends that are women that I found very beautiful, but the act, like the animalistic act that people are talking about, like we sleeping around, doing all this, I didn't get that with those women because of how we met and what it was. Now, as we started talking and I start to see, them in a bikini or them in like summer wear, I'm like, oh, okay, like, yeah. But like it doesn't give me that same, feel as it was if I just saw you originally in that, because that's all I saw. Mm-hmm, so I had time to focus on just, your characteristics, and everything else became a plus.
So that sounds so passive for me. So do you think that men have to be handed your character before? And I'm not saying you're the representative.
No, I think, but it also depends who are we talking about?
True.
Like there's a certain subcategory where it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're animals. Like it doesn't matter. But I think generally speaking, if there's women who are looking for the picture perfect, quote unquote knight in shining armor, and there's a man who wants the woman who's, the one that can follow and be, submissive, it has to go both ways on both ends. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy.
Because men have to hold themselves to a high regard. You have to respect yourselves. And
yeah, absolutely. Because what kind of man are you too? Like that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's all your fault in some degree. Like it goes back to that. And as much as we don't like it to be, those little things matter. Mm-hmm. Like how am I acting on a daily basis? Mm-hmm. How's my friend group? When I go out, am I belligerently drunk? Like how's my circle around me? Are we guys that know how to handle ourselves? We dress well, we work out, we're head above shoulders. We're not going too crazy, because also too, as a man, what kind of man are you? Are you like comfortable where you are, or are you trying to excel where you're at too?
Yeah.
Because if you excel where you're trying to be, you have an image to uphold, you have a certain standard of how you carry yourself. So you're not going to carry yourself in a way that the other animals would.
True.
And that goes the same way for women. So those compounding efforts, and people don't think it matters, those compounding efforts are real. And then it just happens, to you guys happen to meet.
Absolutely.
And that's just what it is.
I hear a lot of people say they will not meet their significant other at the club. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, my wife was at the club.
I love that.
Was it
Westport?
I was bar backing.
Westport, everybody.
Yeah, I was bar backing.
That's where the loves are.
I was bar backing. I was doing security.
You were working though.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I had
a little different.
My phone when I was working there. That's why I said that was the first woman I met where I was working that I did not lust over. Mm-hmm. You seen 300?
I have not seen the whole movie. Okay, no,
we should watch it.
I'm trying to get this association.
There's a guy named Xerxes. He's his Persian ruler.
Okay,
and he got one of the guys to betray the Spartans. Because he said, "Hey, you just kneel before me. Come to the Persian Empire." And then the Persian Empire, there was hookah, liquor, sex, everything you can desire, money.
Lust.
Yeah, but that's what I was working in Lust Central. I was working in the palace, and that's the first woman I saw, and I was like, wow, that's like a genuine girl. Like,
yeah.
Afterwards, we actually got pizza. We talked for 2 hours, a conversation, and they moved on.
Now, so I really want to emphasize, because I feel like you can meet the love of your life literally anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? You go to the grocery store, car wash, gym, whatever, club. Mm-hmm. The thing that makes the difference is your intention and their intention.
Yeah. What is your energy, just generally speaking?
Absolutely.
And I think, it just goes back to who you are. Like, what kind of person are you? And, there could be someone just like you sitting across the table. It just depends on what your energy is. and what kind of person you are, because you're gonna attract who you are.
Absolutely.
But you just
And
have to see that.
absolutely. And I do think the only thing to sustain a healthy relationship is, okay, now this is where the self love comes
Mm-hmm.
back.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you can't sustain a relationship with anybody if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think your own happiness is not your partner's responsibility. At the end of the day, no matter what people want to say, we are individuals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality. You are your own person. Now, you do make sacrifices and adjust who you are for those around you if you care enough for them and they need those adjustments. But yeah, if you're not going to make yourself happy, then it doesn't really matter who you're with, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to make the whole. It's a team thing. You're choosing to be with a spouse or a partner to make a unity and to make this team work.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not being a good team player because you're not doing right by yourself, you're not treating yourself right, you're not doing what's needed to move the needle forward for the team, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I'm going to do a crazy loop in back to our outline.
Yeah, we kind of went
straight just a taste.
yeah.
But I love the tangents. I'm a tangent girl, and
Absolutely.
I think it gives a
It's
little more.
good content for somebody who
Somebody
needed
needed
that.
it. Okay, so our second topic. Let me see. So our second topic is going to be recognizing your worth outside of conventional achievements. And, I'm not afraid to talk about this in context of relationships because I feel like to be married under like 30 for a millennial, I don't think is very common. I feel like, millennials are, we're in the Midwest. So I feel like it's a little more common in, the Midwest, more traditional places. But I don't think our, generation is too quick to marry. And this could be a generalization. I haven't done my research, but so let's talk a bit about, examples where you felt like you were experiencing doubt or, where you realize your value in those times where, you weren't on the path that everyone else was.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I have tons of friends who, were kind of finishing college, doing, sort of quote unquote big time professions, and I was still figuring it out. Um, it does play a certain effect, especially with your parents too, kind of saying, "Hey, your friend so and so did this." Like,
Yeah.
but see, I had no problem kind of, you know, I've always been a person who has not been afraid to hold my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'll say, "Hey, like, I mean, I don't. What does that mean? Like, it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with me."
Yeah.
Then you fast forward to now. Now all of my family loves me, and everyone's saying I'm doing such great things, and I'm helping people who and this is not to go too deep into people's pockets, but I'm sitting down with people for a line of work that I do that are making 10 grand a month, 14 grand a month, 6 grand a month, great careers, great car, and they're barely breathing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, who's really winning?
Of course.
So because that's the whole point of why people put this pressure for you to have a certain title or job is because they assume that's going to bring you some sort of financial security,
Mm-hmm.
because financial security kind of leads to the rest of everything else.
Right.
But yeah, so I kind of look at it down the line. I'm just like, you just gotta stick true to who you are. If you're a good person, you do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
It'll all play. You just can't let that stuff bother you. I think
Mm-hmm.
too many times people let other people's opinions and other successes around them make them feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like, dude, you really don't know what it is. Like, you have to be inside to really know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've sat with some people who are nurse practitioners and doctors and then pharmacists and lawyers, and I'm like, dude, our situation is no different.
Mm-hmm.
There's no different situation. I might actually be doing better,
Mm-hmm.
and my wife doesn't work, and hasn't worked. So it's like, what are we now really valuing?
Right.
And then there's a whole other conversation of what is to really value.
Right. Right.
What's really success? What's really doing right? Like I said, it's a marathon. It's a marathon.
Absolutely. I feel like people find value in others where they want to have value for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know what that, I feel like, especially with like Instagram and
Mm-hmm.
social media, it's very easy to seek that value from other people's reactions.
Yeah.
But, and even personally, in medical school, when you say, I'm going to be a surgeon, I'm going to be, a neurosurgeon, a cardiologist, most people don't even know what these doctors do on a day to day. A lot of people don't know the difference between a neurosurgeon and a neurologist,
Mm-hmm.
or a cardiologist and a cardiothoracic surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
So just, seeking that response from people will get you, momentary validation, but you can't base your value on that. That's just
No,
unrealistic,
no, and that's a problem. That's why I think the majority of just education, because what it all comes down to is education, how you're sculpted and how you're kind of molded and raised. There has to be more of an emphasis on self development.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, are you taking care of your health?
Mm-hmm.
Are you taking care of your mental? Are you do you have good communication skills? Do you know how to shake someone's hand? Can you speak properly? Are you trustworthy? Do you have good character? Are you able to handle stressful situations?
Mm-hmm.
And like an emphasis on that. If you have all that stuff taken down, it doesn't matter what career you pick, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you go to Beverly Hills or you go to Silicon Valley. The engineer in the mansion is living next to a guy who's a veterinarian, who's living next to a guy who owns a plumbing company, who lives next to a guy who, developed the, you know, a seaport for the charger of the iPad. It doesn't
Right.
matter. But one thing they all, generally speaking, they all have in common is those kind of traits, and I think that's what matters. And if you can do that well, and then you put that in any vehicle, you will have the success of
Right.
the whole package.
Right. I will say, like, enriching yourself,
Mhm.
like constantly seeking opportunities to grow and
Absolutely.
constantly seeking opportunities to learn. Because I think a lot of people, especially at our age, I'm running into a lot of like college graduates
Mhm.
who have opportunities for certifications in their field, but yet they want to be like not engineers, excuse me, but they want to be like entrepreneurs or they want to go into real estate. And I'm like, why not maximize in the lane that you're in now,
Mhm.
and then excel on that, and then, market that, leverage that for your extra income. And oftentimes, it is just,
Yeah.
I just want extra income. But I'm like, you're sitting on a craft, a niche that most
Yeah.
people don't have.
Right. At
You
least put it to use.
Absolutely.
And I think that's also too the double-edged sword of college is because most people don't know what they want to do in college.
Mm-hmm,
If you ask 90% of people, and I work with high school kids, you talk to them, they're just regurgitating what they heard their parents tell them or what they know their friends' parents do or their aunt and uncle do or cousins. So I think in that same regard, college is just a very expensive place to find yourself.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people end up, they go through these classes, they graduate, they got their, bachelor's in engineering, but then like they just, through that duration, they figured out and they saw that one clip and like, dang, this is what I really want to do.
Right.
It was unfortunate that it came at the cost of
College.
all that. Yeah. And then it also came at the cost, of you having, like you said, education and certification to step into this field here.
Right.
But they're like, I don't want to do it.
Right.
And that's why, I believe unless you're really, really serious about having a, specialization, being a doctor, being a pharmacist, being a lawyer, being an engineer, if you're not going to do any of those things and you're aware, then go to college and figure it out. You want to have fun figuring it out, having 50 grand, 80 grand in student loans, that's fine.
Is it?
The student loan debt? I don't know. Some people have some crazy debt.
Yeah, but like that's all at the sake of like not wanting to.
Yeah, well, I'm saying if you can afford to do that.
Oh, okay, I see.
And you want to go ahead and find your way that way.
Yeah.
Cool. But if not, I think people should just, figure it out.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of friends and you guys want to get your own apartment and split it that way and work jobs and self-improve and read and just figure out, go through experiences. You can figure out that way. But I think people need to figure it out because 18, 17, 16, 15-year-old people, and all of a sudden 4 years later, hey, go to the real
exactly.
world. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and there's very little preparation for that, and a lot of people base their value on what they do in those few years between 16 and 20 is like, okay, am I gonna go to college? And that I think that is when the start of getting that external validation and people's reactions. When I was going pre-med, I got a lot of oohs and that's impressive, and sometimes I got people who were like, oh, okay, like you're starting out pre-med, but let's see if you finish.
Absolutely.
But even then, like you get hooked on those ego, tips of oh, a little bit of ego here, a little bit of ego
Mm-hmm.
here. I'm going to the military. Oh, that's very
Yeah.
noble of you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I think there should be a bigger emphasis on encouraging, young adolescents to learn about careers and
Mm-hmm.
experience those careers, exposing those kids to the day-to-day lives in careers. Because a lot of people, going back to what you said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, will want the lifestyle and want the, illustrious benefits of these careers,
Absolutely.
but they don't want to do that on a day-to-day. A lot of people don't want to play. I don't even know how many basketball games are in a season. How many?
Oh, for what, NBA?
Yeah.
It's like 82 games. You
Love
travel.
that.
You travel all over the place.
Love that.
You don't see your family. You got to train. You got to eat right.
Sleeping in hotels,
yeah, I mean,
like
it's a lot going on.
You got to be up at the crack of dawn.
And
It's
even
not
in
like
college too, you got to take classes on top of that too. So
absolutely,
it's like, there's a lot going on, and
yeah.
that's why I think, and that's where I believe high school, and not all, because certain ones are, depending on what kind of institutions you go to, but that's where the majority of the institutions from age 14 to 18 fail.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because it's just fillers.
Mm-hmm.
You just need 4 core classes to have a GED or diploma.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's it. So that's only done in 2 hours a day. So that means the other 6 hours are just fillers, because it's just a older version of daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And by state law, you're now, you go to the state school, public school, so you belong to the state. So they have to keep you here from the time mommy and daddy go to work and the time they get out.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to just do that, and it's just, that's what happens too when it's boring. There's nothing being taught. There's no, it's not being done the right way. So you got kids who are bored, kids who are upset, kids who, whatever the case may be, and it just turns to the zoo that it is. And I believe that if you're very intentional about, hey, from this institution that's housing kids from 14 to 18, 5 days a week for 8 hours a day, it should be a lot more intentional in what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
Or else it just turns into this cycle.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I don't want to go in a deeper rabbit hole. But
whenever you run for politics, let me know.
Necessary.
I'll vote for you.
I appreciate it.
Let's get into our reflective questions for this question or this topic on recognizing your worth outside of conventional achievements. When have I struggled finding value in myself?
Yeah, I think, honestly, especially kind of, I don't know if I'm speaking to a lot of people who may feel the same way, but I think that's just an everyday battle. It never goes away. Because you just never know if you're doing it right. You never know, like, if you've actually made an impact. So that's why every day, though, you're working, and having this tug of war of, man, I gotta do this, or man, have I done enough? And there's days like, man, look what I've done. Like, so it's just, I think it's just it doesn't ever go away. But I think that's kind of the beauty of being able to be in that frame of mind, because those kind of people are really the ones who do change the world, make impact, and do things. When there's people who don't think about that, they could care less, or just, in a sense, like bots. They're just kind of doing what they gotta do. That's it. Worry about themselves, go to sleep, repeat, and that's it. And that's fine. We need all sorts of people, but I believe that's, if you're someone who's truly intentional and looking to do great things and be a great person and be impactful and change lives, you're going to go through that every single day, because it's never going to be enough.
Right. Absolutely. And I was just thinking back at a time where, I feel like when you said it was every day, I definitely agree with that, because when I go on social media and I see someone who's doing something similar to me, I'm like, dang, they started, before the pandemic, they started like 3 years ago. And oh my goodness, like I could have started then, but I was, wasting my time with school.
Yeah. And you know what? And there's a popular argument that, social media is not good, because you still see, and it's good and bads, but it's like, you just, you're competing too much. You get to see what someone else is doing, that takes your joy away. And if you never get to see them, like if you break up with a girl back in the day, there was no social media, so you guys just go your own ways and it's over.
Right.
But now you still see the girl, you still see the guy, and then even in a competitive space of being a creative or doing whatever it is that you want to do, you see someone else who just started a month ago and they're killing it. You've been doing it for a year and you're not.
Right.
But I also think it's good, because it's like, all right, well then just do better. Maybe you weren't doing enough. Maybe, because some people have a delusion too. They think that they've been doing something for amount of time, and they think that equates to some sort of like success. It's like, dude, you could be doing it for a year or two, but like, what were you doing in that year or 2 years?
Right.
Were you actually moving at the speed that you needed to be going?
Right.
Or were you just kind of lollygagging through? Or this guy's been doing it for 3 months, but he's been putting in,
Heavy hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
like 80-hour weeks.
Yeah. He invested.
Yeah, so it's like, but it's good. Maybe you should see that, and you should feel upset. You should feel, a little bit a kind of way, because it gets your competitive juices going, and maybe that is what sparks you to do more.
Right, but use that for like positive.
Yeah, or even too, like just seeing like, us being in the our basketball program, right? It's a very competitive space all over the country, but especially Kansas City. And then you see certain programs that do really well, and you could be a hater, or you could be like, dang, like they're working over here. We got to do more. We got to do this. So it's all about perspective too.
Yeah.
And I think that's at the end of the day, what it all comes down to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And our next reflective question for this point of recognizing your worth outside of conventional achievements is, how did I define my worth before, and how do I define my worth now?
How do I define my worth before?
Like before, your traditional journey, your successes rather.
I don't know. Maybe it's not supposed to be defined. I think that that's the whole point of, going through the process. I think a lot of people want to like pinpoint things before and after and during. It's like, maybe you're not, and like that's okay.
But you have value.
Yeah. I mean, definitely value yourself. But I think it's also too, you value yourself depending on who you are in your phase of growth, right? Certain values you may have had when you were 19, 20 is not the same values that you have now.
Exactly.
So, and you could be in a whole different spectrum, whole different light of who you are in your career. And then when you look back, I think it always comes back at looking back, because you have to.
So what do you value?
What I value?
In yourself now.
In myself, I think I just value the fact that I'm still going.
Okay.
That's, I think sometimes too, you have your own personal, egotistical conversations, which I think everyone needs to have to some degree, an ego. I'm very aware of like, who I am and how I feel I am, which I think everyone in their regard should feel a certain way about themselves. But, I look back and, I look at all the boxes I've checked off at such a young age, starting behind the 8 ball. And I'm like, okay, this is great. And there's times where I'm like, man, I still haven't done nothing yet. But, at the end of the day, I just value looking at the sum of everything. I'm like, man, look at where I started, where I'm at, and where I'm going. And I never quit, and I'm consistent. And I think that's where I find the most value for myself is you'll never say Ricky quit. He may have pivoted, he may have parlayed, he may have turned, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, but he's never quit. And I think that's where I put value at, because I think quitting is just terrible. Quitting is terrible.
It's terrible.
Because no one makes you quit but yourself.
That's very true.
Like you quit because you wanted to stop.
Or you needed to. I don't know. I mean, it goes back to what I said
I think
earlier.
That's where failing comes in. I think stopping because you couldn't go anymore or just didn't work out, that's failing. That's totally fine.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with failing. But you quitting because it was inconvenient or it was too hard or like, it's like, I don't. That's the whole point of. That's why it's unpopular to have those big things you want.
Yeah,
whether it's money or success or impact. That's why the people who do achieve it, who you put on a pedestal or we glorify, is because it's hard.
And it's not. That's not like the end of the world. Like it's really not. Yeah. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, I can't do that because it's hard." I'm like, well,
yeah, but what does that mean? It's hard. Like,
to some people, driving's hard. Like legitimately, and being at the hospital, I say living at the hospital because practically, but like being at the hospital, you see hard and you see people overcome it. Physical therapy is hard. Sitting in a hospital for weeks at a time is hard. But people do it to get to the other side of things.
Absolutely. That's why hard. It's not like, I don't even know what that means. Hard. Like so what, you just do easy things your whole life?
Yeah.
Well, that's the case, and I mean, you just belong in that side of the room.
But nobody does that. That's literally not possible. Everything's
everything's gonna be hard. But you know what? Hard is inevitable.
Yeah.
It's just you got to pick your hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very big one. What kind of hard do you want? Because sacrificing later, that's hard.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could do that.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it depends on the lives you've seen, the lives you've had, the lives you want to have. And then it's really easy. I feel like our society gives you all the reasons to give up early. You know, social media will show you.
Yeah. And that's why it goes back to what we said. It's very important about who your circle is.
Yeah.
Because if I'm around ducks and I'm an eagle, we're speaking two different languages. So it's completely a waste of time, and it's going to be frustrating to try to get the ducks aligned with what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That's why it's very imperative that you have to have the right people around you, because then you don't have these conversations.
Absolutely. And that segues beautifully into my next point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Building a support system that values your individuality. And so let's just talk about a little bit, we'll summarize all these, but talk about who your support system was and how you intentionally adjusted that support group, eliminating and accepting certain people even.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the biggest, and this is just me personally, I have people who, and support is it differentiates between people, right? What that support is. Some support one aspect, some support a bigger aspect. But honestly, and this is just, how I see it, if you don't support yourself, man, it doesn't matter.
Come on. You could say self-love here.
Yeah, I mean, you have that's self-love, right?
Yay!
If you don't have self-love, self-support, self-discipline, it doesn't matter, because then you just look like a charity case, because you have people kind of saying, "Oh, hey, you can do it," or "Hey, we believe it." Like, what are you, 3 years old? That's not the real world.
And will you believe it? If you don't,
you can't. If you don't believe it, doesn't matter who believes in you.
Yeah.
Now, even though it is some people's jobs as a coach or as a spouse or as someone else to do that, but at some point too, if it keeps being that Sam story, then it's just pitiful.
Well, you have to believe it. Like, no one can convince you of that.
No, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. So that's why, like, also to your circle, to be honest, it changes. I mean, you have friends that you can know for a decade, but there's a guy I can meet for 3 years, and I've done way more. He's done more for me than people in 10 years. So, I don't think your circle matters as far as the support goes. Now, does it help? Absolutely. Does it make things better when you have a support group and people who are aligned the same visions as you that are working the same way? 1,000%. But, like, it goes down to me. If I didn't support myself, if I didn't believe in my vision and my dream and what I was doing enough, then it really wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like my wife, she's biggest fan, biggest cheerleader, but I love it, but it doesn't matter. Like, it matters if I believe, if I support, because at the end of the day, I got to put in the work. I got to make these dreams a reality. So if it's not in me, then it's not going to be.
True.
So
true. I feel like when you said, like, if you're surrounded by ducks, that does hurt you.
Oh, yeah.
So it does cost to have that lacking support.
Yeah, it's very important. And that's why it's hard, because on your journey to find the other eagles, it's hard. And then when you do find the right eagles, say, whew, like, but they're all the way up in high altitude, in the eagle's nest. It's high altitude. You got to figure out where it is, because it's not everyone's there. There's a lot more ducks and pigeons than there are eagles. And I think it's very important that, that's why the journey is so important. Like, I always saw that when I was younger, like, it's about the journey with the journey. But now that I get older, I'm like, I was like, what does that mean? But now I'm older, I'm like, yeah, it is about the journey. Because all that is going to lead you to that. And that's not going to be enough. So it's still going to lead you more, but the journey will be a little better.
Yeah.
Right? You'll be a little more equipped. You'll have a little more tools on your tool belt. You'll have, more stuff in your backpack. But that, you never stop.
And you never know where that next step will take you.
Yeah.
You talked a bit about, networking, and you meet the right people that can change the trajectory of your career.
Yeah.
But also, I'm obsessed with this duck reference because I caught a word while you were talking.
Yeah.
When you were saying to go from the ducks to the eagles, it takes some transition, right? So in that transition, just thinking about it, legitimately from ducks to eagles, that altitude change, you're going to be short of breath, right? It's going to be hard. You're going to get tired. You're going to be alone, right? Because you left all your friends.
Yep.
And now you're just in the worst, right? Like it feels like, is this the right thing? Did I do the right thing? And I think a lot of times, that's my 2023, that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
Where, I walked away from more passive friends that I felt like weren't necessarily, feeding into my, support. They weren't a part of my support. They were spectators. And, that says nothing about them. It just says, the context of our relationship, it wasn't conducive for me.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I definitely feel like in the times where I, left those friendships, I was questioning it. Did I do the right thing? It would be so much easier to just extend an olive branch and fix the patch and be better, And these are friends I had for decades at a time, So it took me to a point where it was like, this sucks, right? I'm by myself. But it was in that moment that I dug deep in my self-love bag, that I, talked to God and got closer to, God, and really strengthened my faith and just trusted. Like, I left those friendships for a reason. I had these feelings and these inklings and these words from God for a reason. And I really had to trust that. But, and even going back to the last point, like if you don't trust yourself, nobody can convince you that otherwise. But okay, let's get into our.
No, absolutely. You have to. You got to keep. That's something I've always been a man of faith. I grew up Catholic, and all that. But as I've gotten older, and you touched up on it, like it's very important to find God. And especially the older we get, there's less control in people. People are just kind of. It's a zoo out here. It's honestly a zoo. It's a circus. But you need God, because that's one thing I've noticed too. It's been a little fault of my own. I've always been very, very driven. Like I know where I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I've seen it before, and I have no problem flying at high altitude, being alone, leaving the other ducks. I have no problem with that, because for me, I've always been like, well, do I stick around where it's comfortable and I still have my same friends? And I abandon the mission, or do I abandon them and go on the mission?
Right.
I'm picking the mission 11 times out of 10.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not living that regret.
Yeah.
But in that same breath, it's been very self. And I've noticed and I realized you can't carry that cross by yourself.
True.
You have to you have to have God in your life. You have to submit to God. You have to make the right, the right decisions, the hard left, not the easy right. And you need God, is what it is, because it's the only equalizer you really have. And if you don't have that, if you don't have morals, if you don't have, someone that you fear in any kind of faith-based way, then you just have a zoo,
right.
Which is what happens.
Well, yeah, and then you're just acting on impulse, right? You're being reactive, and that temporary satisfaction means nothing without that sustainable, growth.
Absolutely.
So, but all right, let's hop into these reflective questions.
Absolutely.
So, who in my life supports my non-traditional path, and how do they show their support? And I guess I can just kind of start this one, or I can do this one and you can do the next one if you want. But I feel like my mom in particular was not in support of my non-traditional path for a second. When I transferred to UMKC, she questioned it. She was like, what are you doing? Why are you, I'm pre-med at UCM and I'm doing biology. And she's like, why are you transferring? This just seems like it's so much. And, it was a year of me trying to figure it all out for myself. But once I moved, she was like, oh, this is great. This is genius. You're saving money. You're able to stay at home. Like all the pretty things just came out. Yeah. And even when I took the MCAT, did terrible and was like, I need to do a post-bac program. And that means, extra time out of school. She's immediately like, oh, I don't know about that. Like in my parents of like her generation, if you leave school, you're never going to go back.
Yeah.
So she's thinking, oh, no. Like, I don't know if this is a good idea, but I had to trust, I know my journey. I know my vision. I've done my research. This is important for me, so that I can get to that end goal, And so now, of course, she's always been my biggest support, but she's probably my deepest support, by far. And you saw her at the match day party.
Yeah,
like
that's my best friend.
She was just happy, so happy about everything.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, if you want to, fill in on that.
Yeah, I think my biggest support Um, and I think the support, it it adapts, to the situation, to the circumstances, and to where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the beginning, you know, I don't think my parents were the best support. But also too, it's like, what kind of support was I looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for people to say it's okay, like, yeah, like your idea is crazy, but it makes sense.
Right.
Or to support that, hey, we'll still back you and love you, but we don't think this is the right thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been kind of a support that started from that and has grown into, you know, supporting full fledged and whatever I'm doing. I think the next biggest support obviously is my wife. Just because now it obviously took a lot of. It was never easy from day one, just because how she grew up, her upbringing, her experiences, and mine as well. So it was a little bit of, not a conflict or friction, but it took time to
Growing
understand.
pains.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
took
Yeah.
time to understand. But now she's the biggest support. She helps me in the business, um, and she's also, and this is another thing too. Uh, and it's human nature for the majority of people. They have to see some sort of success for them to support.
Yeah.
Now, there's some people who catch the vision before, and
Mm-hmm.
that's great. Unfortunately, that's not the reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some people who will, support, get the idea, but as long as it's not setting you back or it doesn't come at their cost or their expense.
Right.
And there's some people who are, your bros and your guys, and that's why, um, we can talk about this another time, but that's why I think for guys, a brotherhood is so, so important to
Mm.
have. So important.
Mm-hmm.
But like having those guys that see the vision beforehand. Definitely have a close friend of mine who's like a family friend. He's seen the vision since, we were, the vision wasn't even a real thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very important to have, those corner pieces there for you, in your support. And I've been fortunate to have that, and the support has grown better than when it originally was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's you can't take that stuff personal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's like, movies. I'm a big movie guy. Every movie you see, the plot sucks.
Oh, okay.
The main character goes through hell.
Mm-hmm.
It's always something in the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's never the support. There may be that one person who kind of sees it, but they're
Right.
like, "Hey, man, you should probably be a little careful." But hey, all right, do it. I'll help you a little bit,
Yeah.
and then it just blossoms and it flourishes, and everyone loves it.
Yeah. No one ever like buys in just on blind
Like
faith.
it's never supposed to be that way. And I think that needs to be a norm, that needs to be understood, and it needs to be accepted, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like we talked earlier, it's hard,
It's hard.
and that's okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there has to be, like, for some reason there's a narrative that if things are hard and difficult, it's like spooky.
Sure, sure. I think it's like, but that support aspect is
Yeah.
different, right?
Yeah.
Like going somewhere and it being hard, I can do that if I know that at least, for me, it's my mom. Like if my mom is like, okay, you know what? And for a lot of my journey, she didn't get it.
Right.
She's not medical, she's a teacher. Right. So she didn't know that, like, she knew I wanted to be a doctor. Yeah. That was pretty much it. But neither of us knew what that meant. And, I don't know that it would have been a feasible task without the support of my mom. Like I feel like I hope that I would have been able to, but I think, there is a layer of privilege when you do have that support.
At some point you're going to have, and that's the thing too, everyone needs some support, whether it's like a brother, a sister, an aunt, mom, wife, dad, because that's what kind of makes everything go up. Everyone's supposed to help each other out. You're supposed to push someone up because they pushed you up. Like that's what it's supposed to be.
Do you have any, because I know a lot of people who have, toxic families, and so they've had to distance themselves from those family members. And, if it's your whole family.
Yeah. So that's another thing too. I don't, there's a clear distinction between relatives and family.
Okay.
That's a very, very clear distinction. family you do pick.
Mm-hmm.
Relatives you don't pick.
Okay.
And I'm very intentional in how I deal with my relatives and my family.
Okay.
I think family you choose who that family is. That title of family is earned, and I think a lot of relatives feel entitled to be part of your family.
Come on now. Okay.
But they're just people that just happen to have a blood relation to you, but that doesn't mean they're family. Not at all.
Well, that's deep. Oh yeah, that's a good one. We'll have to have another episode about that.
Yeah. That's 1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000. I stand on that. Relatives and family are two different things.
Absolutely.
And people need to start, deciphering between their relatives and their family.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, that'll be a good tangent. We'll have a repeat for Ricky
for sure.
being a guest.
Absolutely.
And that kind of went into, how did I shape my support system, and was it intentional? Because I feel like it costs to have a passive support system where you kind of just, happen to be in the same situations, and maybe you grew up together, but you don't really have the same interest. People will anchor themselves to those people.
Mm-hmm.
They will really feel a responsibility to maintain those relationships. So
yeah, and I think sometimes too, there's people that you do think are perfect fit for that support system, and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. That's why I always say, like, it's a, that's why I say I'm a man of adjustments, because it's never gonna go according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, never gonna go according to plan. There's like people that you think like, oh man, like, we're gonna kill it, like this is it, and you would never think, if you ask someone in that situation 4 or 5 years from now, there's no relation.
Yeah.
It's like, huh? Like, that's also the beauty of the journey, because then you meet different people, you reconnect with certain people, and they end up changing your life and introducing you to someone else that you never knew, and then it just turns into, that's why it all comes back to self-love.
Right.
I think if you have that taken care of, you believe in yourself, you stick to your guns, you also adjust, but you keep the main thing. The world and the universe and God has a great way of matching things up. You just have to be able to see it.
Right.
Because a lot of times people will pray to God. This drives me crazy. They'll pray to God and they'll just pray. No action.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I learned. I went to Catholic school for middle school, and professor told us, hey, you can pray all you want, but you have to have action. You cannot just sit there and pray.
Right.
And that's what happens to a lot of people. They just pray,
mm-hmm.
Which I think some people take advantage of praying in the wrong way, and they end up just complaining to God, and just venting to God. And then people come in and they're like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then I don't even, because now you're just putting your complaining, your excuses to God. You're not even looking for a solution. You're just finding someone else to complain to.
Right.
But you need to be able to see those signs too. And if you don't, then it's going to take some risk too.
Yeah.
It may be stepping into the unknown, right? But that's also the whole beauty of life. Like, you're supposed to figure out and learn.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then you just stay in reservation and live in a scarce kind of way. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Faith without works is dead. That's definitely a part of the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't know the scriptures, so don't get on me.
But no, don't worry. The ones who know the scriptures by heart are usually the ones you got to watch out for. So
Jesus.
I'm just saying.
Well, my final question.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the best way to kind of end it. But what steps did I take to distance myself from negativity or misunderstanding regarding my choices when it came to my support?
Getting better support,
like the negative support.
Oh yeah, then you just buy. I mean, it's that simple. Like, either you have a conversation with that person, you let them know, hey, this negative energy behavior is not going to be tolerated, or just move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are very, very. It's a very hard thing for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I don't know if I see something that doesn't make me feel good and I understand it's not right, why would I stick with it? Now, you can have a conversation and say, hey, this is what I observed. Not really a fan of this. And depending on how their reaction is, then that will either give you a solution to move on or to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
But people need to, they just need to, you got to pull the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
You got to call a spade a spade. You got to have a conversation. You got to communicate. And then If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is an example of choosing your hard. Yeah, because you do have
Yeah.
to have hard conversations when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know. People are just wired differently too because there's some. I'm a very very solution based guy,
Oh well.
but 99% of people are not solution based. Like
Well,
they just want to
yeah.
harp on the. I'm just like I can't do it.
Mm.
I generally cannot. It's a waste of time.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
hurts my head.
yeah.
Like I'm like I see the solution right there. Like oh I'm cold. Here's a blanket. Well, I heard this blanket kind of may give you a ride. I'm like yo dude,
Do you want the blanket or not?
do you want the blanket or not? I'm thirsty. Here's water. Well,
I don't drink water.
I drink water. I really wanted something to like taste
A little
better.
sweet.
Yeah, like, dude, what? And that's why I work very hard to control my own matrix to where I can't have any ducks in here. Just can't.
Yeah.
I've realized that. I'm aware, and I think out of respect for myself and my own sanity, my own spirit, my own brain, I just can't do it. I can't tolerate it.
Of course.
Now I can become better to maybe develop and coach, but like I'm not doing that.
Of course.
I'm
Of
not,
course.
I'm not,
You know your
yeah,
value. You know
yeah,
where you belong. You know what
yeah,
kind of
not,
energy.
because that stuff is dragging.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't be in a place where I'm being dragged down.
Yeah.
Now there are some people who are some ducks and they mean good and they want to be an eagle. And it's like, yeah, I can help you. Like, but you're gonna have to help
yourself.
This is a two-way
Yeah.
street. But if it becomes a one-way street, then I'm gone.
Yeah.
But then if you come back, okay, you want to make it two-way street? Yeah, okay. And then just go back to one-way street. All right, then I'm gone.
Absolutely.
So that's how you have to move.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, thank you so much for being a guest on my episode.
My pleasure. It's an honor, and I feel privileged to be on the first one.
Yes, indeed.
So, thank you.
I appreciate it. I hope more people will listen.
Yeah, first of many.
Yes, indeed. And if you want to share, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My Instagram, I keep forgetting. It's going to be my last name, Joghee, Joghee, Rick, Rick. My last name is not a common last name, so you put Joghee in the search bar for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You'll see a guy
Is it the first one?
in a sports coat smiling. That's me.
That's me. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited for this episode to get. And of course, please answer the multiple choice poll at the end of this episode on Spotify. In this week's episode, multiple choice poll will be, what aspects of self-love do you find most challenging to maintain on a non-traditional path to success? And so please check that out. And I also think this episode pairs really well with my first episode, Setting Boundaries, because I think that'll really highlight some of the areas that you can kind of implement those values and your value better in your support group as well. So without further ado, thank you guys so much for listening. If you don't already follow me on Instagram or other social media platforms, find me at square.of.self.love, as well as use the link in my bio to access other episode platforms such as Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. And of course, don't forget to love yourself.